Hey, welcome to Gold's Garage and happy Labor Day. This is September 4th, 2023, and this is the, I think, third video in the sequence about my 406 build. And I wanted to get this video out today, even though it's a holiday, and because I did publish the first video, and if you're interested in a 406 build, please watch that, of all the stuff that's going into this engine before I started to finish assembling it. Subsequent video, after I had done the leak down tests on my AFR heads and disclosed that I found that I had a problem. And I basically left it at that point as a dilemma, what do you think, sort of thing. And I was overwhelmed by a wide range of comments from people, many of whom had wide and varied and deep knowledge and experience with cylinder heads. Some are machinists, some guys ran racing shops, machine shops, etc. And certainly I learned a lot from the process. So I want to thank everybody for that. At the same time, pretty wide range of comments and opinions. And so I want to cover off what we did. So when I left the second video, I said I have a dilemma, and since then I've gone ahead and installed the heads, and I've run this engine for a little less than 5 minutes. I published a short video of it last week. I think on Wednesday I had to get out of town. I went up north to Michigan and raced with my son was racing Michigan open wheel modified up there in a big race. So it was a fun weekend, and now I'm back to work. So anyway, since then, the comments have been accumulating, and so I want to address a whole bunch of things, and I can't do that in each comment, or I'd be there all day. So here's where I'm at. So I did install the heads, and as I mentioned in the previous video, when I did the leak down before installing them, I contacted Skip White Performance in Tennessee. I talked to the shop foreman. He assured me that they'd be fine. Just put them on and run them, and you'll be okay. So, however, probably if I took a vote, the majority or consensus of responses was you probably shouldn't install them and hope to get better. Well, if they don't get better, it's not a big deal because I'll take them off and fix them then. For me, it's only just mainly time and experience and knowledge. And a good friend of mine, Frank Vanderpeer, coined the phrase, I've quoted him before, knowledge is expensive, experience is expensive. And in this case, if you're watching this and you're wondering if your heads might be leaking, you might get the benefit of my experience without expense. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do that. I didn't feel we'd learn too much if we just contracted this problem out to somebody and hope that they would make it go away for us. So I installed them. I've run this engine less than 5 minutes, and I've actually done one leak down test, and I'm going to give you results of that at the end of this video. And then subsequently, I'm going to make a series of videos and publish all the results of leak down and compression, and either the problem's going to go away, as the foreman at Skip White told me, or I'm going to take them off and get them fixed, one or the other. In the end, the engine will be fixed. Everything will work properly. It's going to the dyno. That's the ultimate torture test and the ultimate test of whether we got this right or not. So watch for that. As soon as I get a dyno date, we'll tell you about that. So here's one of the concerns I have with some of the comments. Say, take it to a machine shop and have them fix it. Okay, I bought these heads from Skip White Performance. I paid a lot of money for them. The AFR brand was important to me because it has an excellent reputation for making good power. Skip White publishes the flow numbers, and they even publish dyno results with these heads and the exact same cam that I'm using. So that gave me confidence that I made a good selection. So one of the things I paid for from Skip White was a detailed 5-angle valve job. And so now you're going to take these heads to your local machine shop and ask them to fix them for you. What assurance do you have that that machine shop has the knowledge, the expertise, the wherewithal, the patience to do that for you and fix your heads, seal them without destroying your 5-angle valve job. In fact, when you're all said and done, you might not have a 5-angle valve job. The other thing is, if you do have to machine the heads, you're going to sink the valves into the head and you're going to reduce your compression a little bit. Maybe that's not enough to make a difference, but I'd rather leave it alone and not touch it if I could. So that's one of the reasons why. The other one is, I tried to do on this channel, is give you the benefit of knowledge and experience. And so I'll give you another example. Not the last engine I built, was Mike Kimball's budget build. Prior to that, in the spring, I did build another 400. This is a 406, but it was a 400, but a similar build. And I had a set of Speedmaster heads in my shop. I took them to a machine shop, a reputable machine shop that's been there for a long time. And I had them completely rebuilt, brand new valve guides, multi-angle valve job, resurfacing, and it was a very expensive build. And I came back and installed those heads on that 400. And guess what? I had 3 or 4 exhaust valves leaking. I contacted the machine shop. I was quickly told, no, that's not possible because we test all our heads before they go out of here. We vacuum test them and we never ship them unless they're leaking. So I brought them back there, witnessed the test, and sure enough, 4 valves were leaking. They did fix them. I did get them again and put them back on. So now I've had this engine apart twice already and it worked fine. But the point I'm trying to make is you just can't dump your problems over the wall. If you want to build a shop, build an engine, and you own every detail of it until the final outcome. And just contracting something out is not a way to solve all your problems. So there's a good example that reinforces that. The other one is cost. So I paid a lot of money for these heads and with the assurance that I could just install them. So now if I go to a machine shop, especially if it's one that has the knowledge and the tooling and the wherewithal and the experience and the motivation to fix them without and still have my good flowing 5-angle valve job, it's going to cost a lot of money. And maybe I should have just bought them from somewhere else in the first place and not had that problem, because they look like a pretty good deal. AFR heads are not cheap anyways, but when I bought them, they looked like a pretty good deal. But it's not going to be a good deal if I have to pay somebody to fix them. So that's another consideration to take. And maybe you should buy them from somebody like Weingartner or other guys that have YouTube channels who are obviously world-class experts in cylinder heads, and pay that cost up front. That may be one of the outcomes that I'm going to tell you when we get done, but we have to finally do the test and get the experience first. So one more comment about, a lot of comments about, cast in China and Chinese junk and all that. And I'm not any supporter of China, but think about what's going on in North America, in the world probably. This is a socio-economic problem that's bigger than all of us. And the fact is, from what I've learned from doing this video, doing this build and the comments, probably most, if not all, castings are made in China. And some come that way, and a lot are machined in North America and delivered. But if they weren't, they'd cost a lot more money than do it. The reason that we're buying them is because they are inexpensive compared to anything that can be made in North America. And that's not just true with cylinder heads, a whole bunch of other things, and not just true with automotive. But take any car that's been restored, detailed, beautiful restoration, you'll have a hard time finding one that doesn't have some Chinese content in it. That's just the way of the world, guys. And it's not going to get solved probably in our lifetime. So we have to learn to live with it. The people in China that are building these heads, casting these heads, they're not fixing up 400 small blocks or restoring cars. You can be sure of that. They can't afford to do that. So the people that are making them can't afford to buy them. Anyway, let's just leave that thought. It's not really important to this process, but that is a response to some of those comments. So what's next for this engine? So once again, I've only run it 5 minutes. Starting this week, I got to get back to work. I'm going to run it again. I'm going to take leak down and compression tests. Subsequently, I'm going to run it probably just 10 minutes at a time at the most. leak down and compression test, and one of two things are going to be true. Either it's going to get better and the problem's going to be gone away, and they're going to come to the conclusion, I'm going to report back to you about that, or it's not. And if it's not, then I'm going to have to take them off and get them fixed. Fortunately, I do have access to someone who can fix them properly, who does know how to do a precision 5-hour triangle valve job. And I'm pretty confident when I get them back that they're going to work and they're not going to be compromised in any way. But if I have to do that, that's what I'm going to do. And the end result is this engine is going to go to the dyno. It's going to have the ultimate torture test. It's going to be tuned, and we're going to see if it makes power. And if I don't fix all that, it's not going to. So that's what's going to happen next. I'll report back to you in subsequent videos. We'll give you all the information, the details of the compression and leak down tests, and you can decide for yourself. So just a quick preview. I mentioned at the beginning that I did take a quick compression leak down test after the 5 minutes of running, or less than 5 minutes of running. And for what it's worth, 4 of the 8 cylinders are already down to 10% leak down, which is the best numbers I've ever seen for an engine that's never been run on the dyno, that's not broken in, that's only run 5 minutes. But some of those cylinders with only 10% leak down have leaking valves, which tells me, and should tell you, that those valve leaks can't be very bad. There's bubbles coming out of them when I spray it in there, and there's no question, as long as there is, then there is some leakage, but it can't be very much because, as I mentioned in the previous video, 9 or 10% in any engine, even after the rings are completely broken in and been running the dyno, is a good number. So having 10% already, and the other cylinders aren't too far behind. So we've already made a lot of progress. Hopefully the next video will be telling you where all the cylinders are tight and we're good to go. If not, once again, we're going to fix it. So just to cap it off, for those who are old enough to remember the Clint Eastwood Dirty Harry movies back in the 70s, and Dirty Harry was pointing his .45 at a bad guy, and he said, did they fire 5 shots or 6 shots? To tell you the truth, I can't remember myself. And the bad guy says, I gots to know. Well, I gots to know. And I'm not going to find out unless I do it this way. Thank you for watching. I hope you found that interesting, and watch future videos. We're going to solve this problem. We're going to have a good outcome. And we're going to the dyno and we're going to make some power. So please like and subscribe and watch for more videos about this engine. Thank you for watching Gold's Garage.